Hi guys, it's Caroline, and today I'm going to be doing my February TBR. Now this February I'm going to be doing something a little bit different from what I normally do, which what I normally do is I just pick, hey, what are the books that are really ones that I want to get to this month? But I thought it would be interesting to, instead of like just picking the books that are at the top of my TBR, actually like mixing it up a little bit. So basically what I've always filmed in front of is my TBR shelf. They're all the books that I've not read. Okay, so for context, here is my TBR shelf, and you can see that there are 8 boxes, this being the farthest back, and those are the books, the ones in this top right box are the ones that I tend to be picking from. It's in a kind of order, but I, change them around constantly. Yeah, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick one from each box to kind of shake things up. Basically what happens is books that I wanna read keep getting pushed back because I'll get new books, someone will give me one, and they're books that I really, really wanna read that end up being in a really far off shelf. So I'm challenging myself in February to read 8 books, one from each box. So basically, I've just gone through each box, dug around a little bit, and picked a book, and I think it's good because there's a lot of books that I'm really excited to read that were like way far back. So without further ado, let's get into the 8 books that I want to read. So from box 8, which is the box that like are the books that I'm like most excited to read, allegedly, is King of Fools, which is the sequel to Ace of Shades, which I'm actually was kind of iffy on, but I want to read this book and finish out the trilogy. If I don't do it now, like I don't know if I ever will. I keep having the 3rd book on hold at the library and it keeps coming due for me, and I just need to read the 2nd book so I can get that hold off my hold shelf. Basically, Ace of Shades is sort of got this grimy casino world. It's almost a little bit like Vegas, but there's some magical elements, and a girl who's very prim and proper shows up to town, and she has to team up with this other guy who is clearly a thief and help because she's trying to find her mother, and he is a part of this like pyramid scheme, and it's all about to fall on top of his head. It's time. Next up in box number 7, which is still pretty high on my TBR, is the 10,000 Doors of January. Now, I don't know a ton about this. I know that it's really well loved. It's a really like atmospheric fantasy, and it's about a girl named January who lives in sort of this mansion with all these oddities, and one day she finds a book, and there's something magical about that book. I don't know much more about it, but oh my God, this cover is absolutely stunning. Like, it is stunning, and then I love that it's got the like, what is this called? Deckled edges. Love it. This is a quality book, and I'm really excited to read it. From box 6, I have Interpreter of Maladies. This is a collection of short stories by Jhumpa Lahiri, who I've read one book by her before, and I really liked it. She has another book coming out, which interestingly, she's writing in Italian, which she's decided is now the language she's going to write in, and has been translated to English. This is an original English thing, but I want to read that, but I'm pretty sure this is what won her the Pulitzer, and I want to read it before I read her new book that is translated from Italian. Then from box number 5, I have Early Riser by Jasper Fforde. This is about the human race, except for they hibernate in the winter, and there are certain people whose job it is to make sure that everyone's like sleeping safely and that these crazy dreams aren't bothering everyone. But then suddenly one of the workers gets the crazy viral dream themselves. I think the viral dream is almost sort of like pandemic-esque, which I think would be interesting because it's not a real pandemic, but it's like, it's not a real illness, but it is something that is catching. So it won't be stressful, but it will be relatable. Also, I included this on my 5-star predictions list, and I would really like to get around to reading these books that I'm really excited about. And so I think this is a good excuse, especially because it's all the way in box 5. And I said, yep, I'm really gonna love it. So let's put my money where my mouth is, because otherwise it's gonna take me 8 years to get back to that one. Okay, in box number 4 is A Forest of a Thousand Lanterns. Now, this has a sequel and maybe like a companion prequel, and also this author has another book that I think is unrelated to these books. Regardless, I've heard a lot of good things about these and this author, but I've never read from her, and I just think it's time, and I'm really interested, but I don't want to like buy all the other ones until I've read the first one and decided I enjoy it. But this is like a Snow White Evil Queen retelling, like specifically about the Evil Queen, but it's also set in like sort of an Asian setting rather than a Eurocentric Snow White, which I think is a really interesting concept of taking what we see as Eurocentric fairy tales and placing them in sort of a non-Western setting, and then also giving a like origin story to a villain. So a lot of interesting things going on here. I've heard mixed things about this book though, so I want to give it a try before I like go all in and buy this entire author's like books. So there's that one. Then is The Storied Life of A.K. Kiefry by Gabrielle Zevin. Now, I've had this book for a really long time. Like, I'm thinking close to like 5 or more years, which is why it's in box 3. So it has nothing to do with like how not excited I am, because I've had so many people just recommend this, and I've heard a lot about it. And the buzz has even died down because it's kind of a little bit older book and it's not the hot thing anymore, which is why it just kept getting shuffled back, and it's just been here forever. I don't know a ton about it, but it is about a man. He seems to be lonely. He's running a bookshop that's not doing particularly well. And, you know, all of a sudden a package arrives and there goes his life. I love a bookstore story. I love just like a grumpy old man story / lonely old man story, or lonely middle-aged man even. I just read The House in the Cerulean Sea and absolutely loved it, which that's about a lonely 40-year-old who like goes off and, you know, finds love and family and all of that good stuff. So I'm totally in for it. And I've heard such great things about it. And honestly, when I found this in, box 3, I was like, oh my God, like, what am I doing? I need to read this now. From box number 2, I've got The Opposite of Loneliness. And I've also talked about this one in the books that I regret reading and what I should have read instead. And again, I mean it. I meant it, but then it's in box 2 and I'm like, how am I ever going to get to it? There's like 200 books in front of it. So this is a great time to pull it out again, put my money where my mouth is, which is what this video and this TBR is all about, and actually read it. Plus, I am trying to read 2 books a week, obviously, and, not counting audiobooks. And this is a short gal, and I think it is essays and short pieces. So I think I'll be able to get through this quickly, which I'm going to need if I'm going to be trying to do 2 books a week. And finally, I have The House of the Scorpion by Nancy Farmer. I've had this book for forever. This is also a used copy, but I've probably had this since I was a kid. And I think as a kid, it maybe kind of scared me because this cover is kind of spooky. And it is about a boy who is like harvested, that's the word the blurb used, from DNA, and from the DNA of sort of like this mob boss or something. And they live in a world or a kingdom called opium. So I'm thinking there's sort of like drugs possibly happening. I don't know. I don't think people are treated very well, and this kid is not treated well because he's made from the DNA of the like kingpin, and it just seemed really dark and scary. I think I did try to read it once when I was too young to read it, and it is in box 1. It is far back there, but I mean, look at, like, it's shiny. It's got some medals. Like, I think it's got a Prince Award, a Newbery, and a National Book Award. So clearly there's like something to be said. And now I'm older, so I can handle that kind of stuff. But, I'm just interested, like, will this do it for me? Or, am I too old? Did I grow out of it? Did I miss my shop? But it's like, if I don't like it, then I know. And if I do like it, then happy I read it. So, and honestly, it's just good for me to look at kind of those box 1 things that have been on my shelf for a decade, and just be aware, like, is this something I'm still interested in reading, or did I pick this when I was like 15 or even 10? So I think this is one where I'm either going to really like it or I'm going to DNF it and like be glad that I got it off my shelf. All right, so that is my February TBR. I have the lofty goal of reading on the pace of 2 physical books a week, which is like pretty fast for me, but hopefully I've picked some fast ones, although some of these are kind of chunky. So stay tuned for how well that goes. Bye.